Welcome to another video. It might not be coming home. We might not have won the World Cup, but we have woke up to some absolutely fantastic news. Political Pac-Man. The redistribution of power in the North. We have woken up to... Well, I mean, Pitbull could have wrote it himself. Are you ready? FyRePool. Woo woo. 4 new unitary authorities for Lancashire. Lancashire West, Blackpool Wyre and Fylde. So I came up, I went ahead and designed a logo and everything and came up with a concept, and I do these things just for a bit of fun. But I might use it. I might set up a new Facebook page. We all know I've got a problem with Facebook pages. A big concern that some residents in Wyre and Fylde will have is that Blackpool's like a little bit into the red. We've borrowed a bit of money, a little bit, only a little bit. It's £500 million. 500 million? Is that right? 1,000 million's a billion, isn't it? It depends if it's an American billion or a British billion. 1,000 million's a billion. Then, yeah, it's 500 million in debt because of buying things back and refurbishing them and then leasing them off, but having to... And then the investment in certain infrastructure like the Winter Gardens Conference Centre, and then the sandcastles in there. All these projects are under Blackpool Tourism Limited now. So as a company, Blackpool Wyre and Fylde together now will manage that asset, I guess. And there's something similar with the bins, because Envico is a Blackpool Borough Council arm's length company, again, which operates facilities management and waste management across Fylde Coast. So that, in theory, that could become an asset that we then sell on to the other unitary authorities and they use our services. Fylde Borough Council are already cutting the grass like all over the Fylde Coast. So there's already an element of this cooperation. And indeed, when I was 17, I worked for the DWP on a joint working initiative between Blackpool Wyre and Fylde Council, and I was on the DWP part of it. At the time, they told us about the North West Government region and how things were going to change in the future, and that in the future, it's quite possible that Blackpool Wyre and Fylde will be working together, so we might as well start now. I was part of that. It was cool. It was weird. I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. Hi to all my old colleagues. In benefit fraud. So we've got evidence that, the councils can play nicely together. Blackpool Coastal Housing uses Fylde Borough Council's services. It's potentially good news for my mate's company. They've got a council contract with Blackpool Borough Council that might now extend out to those further authorities. But one of the other things is Blackpool's got a lot of poorer housing stock, and when I say poor, I don't mean people poor, I mean council tax poor. The amount of money that it generates for the council in terms of council tax, Blackpool ain't a heavy hitter, and we suffer from people just not paying. We're in an arrears crisis, not just council tax but business rates as well. So Fylde and Wyre are used to having all the bills paid. They've got some tourism leisure facilities, but they tend to manage them a little bit better, and they haven't overstretched like Blackpool have had to in order to keep up our reputation as a tourism destination. So it's a tumultuous outcome, but at least we're not lumped in with Preston. I suppose it's a good thing. In other news, I've not made any progress since I put my last video out about the Hill House site. I've spoken to some of the key stakeholders in this story, but my personal circumstances, family situation has changed in the last couple of days, so I've had to slide to the left a few of my projects, but I can still make little videos like this because it doesn't take up any of my time. I'm already sat here doing this sort of stuff. So again, for anybody who knows me still from Thornton, school friends, community friends, people I know from pubs that I've worked at round there, I'm telling the story of growing up around ICI. There are lots of ICI sites around the country, and they've all made very similar stuff. And just because we say ICI doesn't mean it stopped 30 years ago. The company that's running it now, they were running it up until 2012 under the same procedure, and then they've only modified it slightly since then. Anything to do with health and loss. We're talking about people that we've lost. Now, one of the concerns that was lifted was about kidney cancer, because there's a known link already. But when I say that this is very early days, I really do mean that. There are other things that were manufactured on that site that are not routinely looked for. And there might be hidden secrets. Like, for example, while they've been doing the pipework replacement at Fleetwood, they've been cutting across Broadwater Wood and other areas, and they've discovered a historic toxic waste dump which contains something like creosote, where they used to dip telegraph poles and railway sleepers in order to treat them. But then instead of dealing with that problem in years gone by, we just dump stuff in it and cover it up and then pat it down. Job's a good one. In the Fleetwood area, that needs a lot more of my attention, so I'm going to have to move up my attention up towards the Thornton Fleetwood area. So there's a couple of stories there I'm going to naturally look into, one of them being the Fleetwood landfill. I call it the tip. I've always called it the tip. It's all the tip, right? To me, Fleetwood tip stinks, right? If you say Fleetwood tip stinks, you know what I mean. But there's people who go, it's not the tip. It is, because just because there's a gate there doesn't mean that it's not the same site. It is, and it always has been the tip. It's just that the council are letting another company run it, so we call it the landfill and the household recycling centre, but it's all the tip, because it's where they tip the rubbish. That's what the tip means, is where they tip the Anyway, that's just one of my personal bugbears on Facebook when I mention Fleetwood tip. I mean the whole place. It stinks. It stinks to high heaven. It stank when I went to school at Cardinal Allen, and it stinks similarly and worse today. The smell is very similar, but it's not exactly the same. So again, anybody I know who went to school with who wants to talk about living with that smell, let me know. That project I was talking to you about earlier this week, Cushy, Facebook's already kiboshed it. They don't want it. It's not recommendable. So that's going to take a little bit more working on and tweaking. I might have to reapproach the market. Anybody who has followed that page, you might see some bits on there, but it's going to need a bit more polishing before it actually comes out. Right. I did a shorter video about the thing on Blackpool News. That's got more detail about the merger of the councils. And if you've got any stories from Blackpool and Fylde Coast that you think have been missed out or overlooked by other media sources, please send me an inbox. Let me know. Or inbox the team. Oh, got stuff to do. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.